Okay, so Mike and I are having we're starting a bit of a debate here.
We are?
On link we are. We
Oh,
are because you just said something before we were started while the countdown was going on. So on LinkedIn, do you decline invitations from people you don't know, or do you accept invitations knowing that when you put things out, more people will see it? This is a very good question.
so my answer is I decline invitations from people I don't know that are likely to market to me. That's my rule.
What's wrong with marketers, Mike?
Nothing. But if it's something I'm not interested in, I'm not going to hire developers in Ukraine.
That's
So
fair. That's
there's
fair.
no
No, no,
conversation to have
yeah.
there.
Since I work in marketing, nobody asks me to hire developers in the
Ugh.
Ukraine, so there's that. Hey, so we did a panel yesterday.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
And really, I enjoy working with Brian Hurd and Mike Germain. I've known those guys for I don't know a decade or more,
Hmm.
and although I will say the best part of that was the storytelling, and especially the story about the hot dog machine that almost got a ketchup delivery guy killed. That was awesome. That was a good
that,
story.
that ketchup delivery. For folks who missed it, uh, basically, Brian Hurd was working. It was him, right? Or was it Mike Germain?
Just give him a link to the replay. Don't explain
All
this.
right, all right, all right,
See,
all
he
right.
tells the
Anyway,
story much better.
he tells the story much better than I'm going to screw it up. But in any event, it's about 20 gallons of ketchup and how it almost got somebody killed. It's a great story. I mean, frankly, in comparison, yours was totally lame
Yeah, it
about
was.
the HVAC sending spam, right?
Well, that's a true story, and that's the one that came to mind. We were like cyber physical. I have another HVAC story about how malware came in through a police department and disabled the HVAC that was cooling the data center, and how this particular city was 5 minutes from complete operational meltdown. That one's a good one too. Although too many details, and people would know what city that was, and this is kind of a secret.
Oh, it is a secret.
It kind of is, yeah.
I don't know. Well, not if you tell it here.
That's as
No,
much
we're
as I
not
want
going to
to
get
tell. So
anything.
that's it.
Nothing. No.
That's it. Nope.
No.
Mm-mm.
Really. Not
Yeah,
nothing.
really. Yeah.
All right. Maybe you could connect with those people from the Ukraine and then tell them.
Okay.
So let's talk about news this week. And for those who don't know, Mike has been curating a daily security news email for about 13 years now. Um, it's like, you get it in the morning, read it with your coffee, click on a few links. We don't track it, which hurts my heart as the marketing guy, but we don't track it. And you can sign up if you just go to criticalinsight.com and scroll to the bottom where you see Mike's face, put in your email address there, and it'll sign right up. And then here on Thursdays, we do sort of a 15-minute review of it. And so that's what we're here for. Mike, what happened this week?
Well, I first of all, we were kind of let down over the potential for attacks over the holiday. We got the warning from CISA, and I'm glad nothing happened. But there were a couple of reports. IKEA and Panasonic both reported incidents,
Mm-hmm.
and so both of those have been going on for a while. So the actual compromise was long ago,
Mm-hmm.
which suggests that there may have actually been an attack over the holiday that hasn't been detected yet. But again, nothing broad and noisy like we've seen in other holiday weekends. At
Pipelines or meat pack.
pipelines, meat
Yeah.
companies,
Mm-hmm.
right, grain distributors, AT&T home devices, something called Edgemark Enterprise Session Border Controller, which I think is like a home router or a small business network or something like that, have been infected with data stealing malware. 5,700 customers have been apparently affected. And to add a little insult to this, it's researchers in China pointed this out to AT&T. So I'm not sure what's being done about that, but AT&T is probably, they'll replace the equipment or something. Something called DNA Diagnostic Center, which is a DNA testing service, had lots of data online and unprotected, right? And so the first thing that comes to mind is, oh my God, DNA information has been disclosed. Yikes. What they said was names, social security numbers, bank account and cardholder info, including CVV numbers, which is a violation of the payment card industry data security standards. So whether or not it was stolen, right? They found it where it was available and it could have been stolen. They haven't said it's been stolen, but whether or not it was, there are fines coming because
Ooh,
PCI, they don't play.
that's not good.
Hmm,
That's not good.
no.
Hey, you're leaving out the global attack that I started with a spreadsheet. The funny thing is, as everybody who works for the company knows, the last thing you want to do is hand me a spreadsheet. So it's funny that I started an attack with a spreadsheet, but it wasn't really me. The Emotet problem that everyone was dealing with 48 hours ago. What happened?
Yeah.
It
So
wasn't just me, huh?
no, it wasn't just you. So good catch. Remembering this one. Yes, you opened a spreadsheet, and we immediately got the alert that the Emotet Trojan had been stopped. Okay, so good. Wow, great. Defender did its job. That's
Blame marketing.
well, we did. But then two other people tripped the same thing. And then someone opened a Word document, and the same thing happened. It fired off. So right away, this didn't look right. We convened an incident team and started digging in. And then I heard from one of our customers that his daughter at a university in Washington State, not Washington State University, got a robocall saying that there was a malware outbreak and they were shutting down servers to contain it. Then it really didn't look right. It started to look like a bad signature update. And then the news article hit from Bleeping Computer. Microsoft Defender scares admins with Emotet false positives. Whew. So yes, there was, about an hour or so when a lot of companies and, government organizations, everybody thought the world was on fire. And, if we know of a university that was shutting down things as a result, I'm sure that's not the only case of that reaction, meaning that the cost of this mistake is going to be substantial if it ever got all added up.
I mean, and good for them to. I mean, I don't know. Good on them for taking action
Yeah.
when you don't know, right? I mean, it's not everybody that can have an internal incident response team that can suss it out that quickly. So
Mm-hmm.
you take the right action, right? And I'm glad it wasn't the real thing. Um, so what's next? Who's being targeted, or at least what the press is saying about who's being targeted?
Mm.
You wrote a blog about construction companies and how the infrastructure bill is going to cause a lot of contracting between local governments and those companies, and that business email compromise is going to tick up, obviously, because hey, you can pretend that you're going to get some of that government funding
Mm-hmm.
through grants, right?
Well, so yes. And did we talk about this last week?
I think so, but it's worth. But I mean, this is going to be a big thing. So
This is
I
going to
don't
be a
care
big
if we
thing.
talked about it. Talk
Yeah.
about it again,
All right.
Mike.
Well, an article came out that supports that. It's called "Tech Adoption Makes Construction Industry Top Target for Cyber Attacks." Okay. Now that article was talking about companies that engineer smart city systems and how deploying all this stuff by companies that we'll just say aren't the best at understanding the security exposures being created by things like automated traffic management, building climate control, and that's true. They are not the most aware of that. Um, but it's interesting. The article mentions something called siegeware that may or may not become a term we start using. I hope not. Okay, what they were talking about,
Siegeware.
siegeware, right? How you can lay siege to a city using all of these exposures that are being created, and a blown up attack surface because companies come in and deploy
I
all this
don't.
stuff.
I
Say,
don't
see
like
you later.
siegeware.
Yeah, siegeware. It's well, at least it's not prefaced with cyber. Okay, so maybe we're making some progress. But my point is, construction companies aren't known for great email controls like multi-factor authentication. Password quality probably isn't great. So their email systems are at risk. And that's what's going to be compromised to change banking information and have cities and counties direct payments to criminals. This is one of the easier predictions to make. So, yes, I wrote a blog about this. What are you going to do with that blog? It's not going to go up on the website?
What am I going to do with that blog?
Yeah,
You
what are you going
said
to do
to
with that
send
blog?
it to our PR people. They're sending it to places to get published.
We're not going to put that on our site?
Well,
Just
I
high
don't know.
quality writing, man.
It was. I read it. It was. After I edited it, it was high quality writing. When it started, it was. It was. Hot dog quality.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Um, uh, I was thinking about it while I was proofing your bad English and dangling participles,
Oh, please.
and remembering when the American Rescue Plan funds were being distributed, and all the
Hmm.
fraudsters jumped right on that.
Hmm.
So I mean, I'm sure you're right. I'm sure they're busy planning it right now. Um, that's just how crime works. There was another story that I saw in the blast this week. Um, about the terrorism exclusion in insurance, right?
Hmm.
It was Lloyd's of London says they won't cover acts by nation states.
So there's a little nuance to it. So yes and no. If the way the law is now, if your building gets knocked down by terrorists, the
Hmm.
insurance policy has that exclusion, right? They all do. Then no coverage, and the federal government backs that up with something called the Terrorism Reinsurance Program (TRIP). Okay. Um, well, what's different is now they want to use the same exclusion for what they can call acts of war. Okay, retaliatory cyber operations.
Hmm.
That's pretty straightforward. Where it's going to get weird, I mean, if somebody retaliates, we did something, they did something back to us, and it took out this business, and they're not going to cover that because it looks like war. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. When it's going to get strange is when there is attribution on like a ransomware attack that points to North Korea. Okay, because they do this, they use ransomware and they steal money from banks. And there's this fuzzy relationship that we've talked about between criminal gangs and the government, where many of them operate. And I'm sure there's going to be claims that have to be litigated because of this. And it all depends on the confidence of the attribution, and that's never 100%. So, don't know where this is going to land, but this looks like Lloyd's of London, which is, a major insurer, coming out and saying, hey, we got to include this other thing in there because it's common.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, by the way, anytime somebody says Lloyd, I can't help but think of that HBO show. Anyway, it was very funny. But back on the insurance companies, I am unsympathetic. If somebody remembers the name of that HBO show with the guy named Lloyd as the assistant, put it in the chat. I cannot remember. Anyway, but I'm unsympathetic. I mean, I assume you're unsympathetic to these insurance companies based on what you've said in the past.
Yeah.
They want out of the business, it sounds like, because they got caught with all these ransomware payouts. We've heard from some of our clients that their coverage levels have gone down while their insurance premiums have quadrupled. And sometimes they're just saying, no, we're not going to cover you.
Hmm.
I mean, do you have any sympathy for the insurance companies?
No, no. I mean, they were feeding at the trough, and you know, I I'm not going to say that we're out there trying to actively convince people to just say, look, just transfer your risk through insurance. We'll cover you, right? That was before, ransomware became an industry. All right.
Right.
So, they insured everybody, and then they paid and paid and paid and paid. Now they want out. Okay. All right. No, I'm not sympathetic.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose you wouldn't be. Hey, we're getting close to the end of our 15 minutes of fame here. What's in threats and phones?
HB printers are probably first. They have a wormable vulnerability, which is always bad, that apparently can be initiated by visiting a booby trapped website. Okay, that's probably the biggest one at the moment. There are two vulns that need patching. The CVE IDs they're all prefaced with 2021, 39237, 39238. Apache web servers are being attacked for a recently patched, hopefully you patched it, vulnerability against the CVE is 40438. And that is if the mod proxy module is enabled. The problem causes the module to forward request to another server. So it's a cross-site redirect problem. You've been seeing the stories about vaccine makers that are getting hit with this thing called the tardigrade malware, which is a very cool name, I have to say. I like tardigrades, which apparently is really sophisticated and has Russian fingerprints on it. Okay, according to researchers.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So again, attribution. Philips is working on patches for medical devices that have been reported as vulnerable. So if you're in healthcare, you're probably going to get firmware upgrades to apply soon. And I think that's all I know about this week in T&V.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Good. And very importantly, one of our viewers has told me the name of the show, which is Entourage. And Lloyd is a hilarious character in Entourage. And if you have not watched Entourage, it's worth watching if you're the kind of person who likes Entourage.
So
Hey,
just real quickly, I'll tell you what Lloyd brings up in my mind.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard the expression, don't bogart that joint? Of course you have. Have you ever heard the expression, don't Lloyd the tank?
No.
It's hogging a tank of laughing gas. And it's called Lloyd because of Lloyd Bridges. Sea Hunt. I was in the 70s and I remember some of it, and that was a thing.
Cool. I wasn't born, but that's cool. So well, you're old. I mean, you're kind of old. It's okay. People know this.
I'm
People know this.
wise.
But I mean, it's funny. You look like a 25-year-old CISO. So there you go.
Yeah. True
Uh,
that's sad, man.
Hey, the kicker. The kicker is
uh,
the part where everybody you put a smile on everybody's face with the story. Although I think I did that just a second ago. But go ahead.
yeah, I
Your
think you do
turn.
a better job of that than me because I have a sad story. I'm sorry. All right. Do you remember Mr. Gox?
Yes, the crypto trading hamster.
Hmm? Mr. Gox has died.
What?
Yeah. His fans or clients, I don't know what you'd call them, had been wondering if he was out sick, and finally it was disclosed that he's passed away. And I understand cryptocurrency trading was halted for 1 minute in remembrance. No, I'm just making that part up. but but rest in peace, Mr. Gox. You had a good run.
Was that whole thing a setup for you had a good run?
No, it's a setup for the emergence of Gox coin, which will be coming out soon.
All right, everybody. Security awareness training is tomorrow. If you don't
Mm.
have an invite, either go get it on our website in the events section or email me, jake@criticalinsight.com. Thanks for joining us and have a great weekend.
Yep.
And I hope that you have it. Everybody, we're going to just sit here for a moment in silence for Mr. Gox.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
All right.